see. Where'd that go now? Hey, everybody. It's Andrew Plank with LePage, and we've got here with us Jen Lowe she's a mortgage broker with, you're with Dominion?
Modern Mortgage Group through Dominion Lending. Yeah.
Right on. And this is he said, she said, they said. Normally we have Jane Johnson with us as well. She's with Remax Camosun, and she's off with family in Vancouver because it's that time of year where we try to take a little bit of time off if we can. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about mortgage rates, and we're also going to do a recap on the stats from last month. So usually Jane and I talk stats together, and we usually have our guest in the background, but I'm going to keep Jen in while we talk stats today, and we'll just go through the stuff. Now, this is going to be a little bit jangly today, just giving everyone a bit of warning. This is my first time hosting this. Jane is usually at the helm with the controls, and she's left us with this. And myself and Jen and Danielle, Jane's assistant, none of us have done this before. So bear with us. But Danielle, could you bring up the stats, please, that you had for just the Victoria Real Estate Board? There's the ones. Okay. So it's been an active market out there, and Jen, of course, being in the mortgage industry, is parallel to us in terms of seeing how busy this is. Jane and I have been talking a lot about the stats, and we go through this every month, and we've lately been seeing often new listings versus pendings, the green versus the purple line, being pretty close. And it's interesting to see this month, the month of July, that is, the month of July was. This is the last 7 days. Bear with me. This is the last 7 days. So in the last 7 days of August, we had 207 new listings, only 166 properties going pending. And normally that's more of that's lately been more of an even number. 34 price decreases as well. So that sort of suggests that we're seeing a little bit more of a slowing in the market. And yet I can tell you that demand is still very, very high. And what I see from this is that one of the problems is, and the number down below at this, we're going to see active listings down here at the very bottom of this, August 2021, there's 1,311 active listings right now. And last year there was 2,584. So quite a few less active listings. So although there's high demand, the choice is so low that I think people are hesitating to purchase the properties that are available on market just because they don't want to buy, just because there's less choice, but they do want to buy. Jen, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, quick question, Andrew. So how does this compare? I know we don't have the 2019 stats there, but 2020 is a hard year to compare to because, as we were just saying earlier, we had our spring market was in the summer, basically. So compared to 2019, how does where we're at right now?
Yeah, let me try sharing. Oh yeah, thanks, Danielle. There we go. Actually, one back, Danielle, if you could. The top one here, and it's very small, but this top graph that has the three little bounces in it, the total active MLS listings, there were 3,000 in July 2019. And then, we typically have a seasonal adjustment and it goes down towards December, but you can see then 2019, we bounced up, but nowhere near as high. And then you can just see how low we are now at just bouncing around the 1,200 number. So we've gone from 3,000 listings in 2019 to just about 1,200.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it's just like anything, if you're going shopping and you need to buy some, I don't know, you need a staple, not a staple. You want to buy a new canoe, but the shelves are empty and there's just a few left, and you don't like the choices. You might wait on your choice of buying a canoe, even though you really want a new canoe. This is maybe not the best analogy, but I just bought a canoe recently, so using that. But I think that's why we're seeing high demand but low sales. We need more supply.
Definitely.
So, yeah. We also have 1,439 real estate agents active in the Victoria Real Estate Board. And we have, so few listings. We have very little. We have less than a listing per agent to sell. So there's a lot of agents, I think, that in the next little while are going to be going hungry. And that's going to be interesting times if that's the case. Yeah.
How do we increase the listings?
Well, it's seasonal for one. With summertime, people tend to go a little bit less likely to be listing their homes. They don't want to have people tromping through their homes while they're, distracted by, they don't want to have to be cleaning every day when it's hot. Maybe they're wanting to go to the lake and they'd rather have it listed at a time, usually springtime, often fall. And I do know of a lot of, there's going to be an uptick of activity in the fall. I expect that. On the different chat groups, my colleagues are often posting about upcoming listings. There are listings coming, but how do we increase them? I guess agents have been maybe a little bit less active in trying to drum up business just because we've been very reactive in the last year.
Yeah.
And just reacting to business as it comes. And we always have to retool as time goes on and when new, as the markets change. And what's going to happen is people are going to have to go. This is kind of probably not a fun thing to hear, but if agents want to drum up business, they're going to have to go, the equivalent of door knocking and trying to drum up that business and say, hey, it's actually a good time to sell. People may not be aware of just how good a time it is to be selling their property. I think also, what do you think? I mean, COVID, people, things are actually opening up now. And I think people there were a lot of folks who were waiting to sell until things had opened up. But also there were people who were not required to wait, have already listed.
Right.
So I think we'll see a big jump in the fall.
Definitely a lot of life event changes where people are able to work remotely or they can work remotely. And like a client that lives in Newfoundland and she can work remotely. So she'd far rather live in BC. So
right.
moving to BC while able to continue her employment.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the working remotely is also a reason why we're not seeing properties coming on market. Because if you're working from home right now, you may not want to be having people coming through your home, especially if you're doing video calls and having to be, you don't want to be disturbed in that. But life changes are always happening. Life goes on. People are, divorcing, getting married, having children. There's always some change happening. But what I'm really seeing is a bit of a migration. As you mentioned, people are choosing to want to come here. And then there are people who are choosing to have to move away. And I think a lot of the younger generation are finding that they're just can't afford to buy in Victoria.
Yeah.
Which is too bad.
Yeah. No, the price point. Well, one of the stats I pulled up, the average age for first-time home buyers, now this is across Canada, is 36 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Across
Canada, average age. And do you have any idea what that was last year or in previous years?
This was pulled off of Stats Canada from 2020. So
2020, 36 years is the average.
Yeah.
Okay.
First-time home buyers.
And first-time home buyers, not the average.
Yes.
Oh my.
First-time home buyers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I was 21 when I bought my first home here in Victoria.
And when I work with first-time buyers, they're usually in their late 20s, early 30s is what historically it has been for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every once in a while you meet somebody who has never bought a home and they're 50 years old.
True.
And that does happen. That will bring.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen often.
No. But people, I think, that average age is increasing, especially in our area.
Right.
You have to save for longer or need to get farther in your career in order to make it affordable.
Mm-hmm. I think people too, and Jane and I have talked about this in the past, but I think the whole concept of the property ladder, there are people who just don't want to compromise. They don't want to buy a home that they actually will compromise living in, so they don't want to buy less than they want now. So they're starting out wanting their end result.
Right.
They're starting out wanting their dream home.
Well, and it's an interesting concept. I know I did it multiple times. When I bought my first home, it was like, this is our forever home. We won't be moving. We can live here forever. And then you have the kids, and all of a sudden your 3-bedroom rancher, 1,200 square feet, is not working.
Yeah.
So then you want to get a bigger house, or you need their bedrooms farther away from your bedroom. So, and I did that probably 4 or 5 times. That, no, this is our forever home. We're not moving again, right? And then you move again.
I generally advise people to, not think in terms of that forever home. At the same time, not to be buying a home unless they have at least a 5-year use case, I guess, a 5-year span of what they want to be doing. Because otherwise, generally speaking, 3 to 5 years is the time frame where it makes sense to buy, where if you have to resell, you're going to be doing better than if you just rented and socked the extra money aside.
Yeah.
And so, but most people do. I mean, I talk to a lot of people and they talk about their forever home, and then, things change in life.
Yes.
But no, just, even if you can't afford the house that you really, really want, if, there's only certain times in our lives where we seem to be in that position where we can actually afford a home or a second home or whatever we're thinking, or an investment property, wherever we're at or whatever our goal is. We get to that point where we can do this, and there's a window where it's possible. And then either the market changes or our circumstances change and we decide it's not for us. But what I've found is, and you've seen this, I'm sure, so many times, Jen, is those people who have bought, I hear so many people say, I wish I'd bought 5 years ago. I wish I'd bought 10 years ago. And, the market's gotten away from me, and houses are so expensive now. And I remind people that houses were so expensive then too. Money's worth a different amount now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Well, and then another stat here that I pulled up is over 83% of people break their mortgage early.
83% break it early.
Yeah.
Wow.
And 100% in my, with my client portfolio, that is bang on. Like most people break their mortgage early.
And what? So for moving, or for what are the reasons?
Change, moving from their forever home to a new forever home, right? Doing renovations, paying off debts, buying that car payment, or getting that car, having that car payment, and then finding it not affordable. House value increase, so that they want to utilize some of the equity to purchase an investment property, all those different things.
So when you say they break their mortgage, you're saying that they don't exactly break it, but they change the parameters, and they extend it, or they buy another home and blend it into the new home, or that kind of,
prior to the end of their 5-year term, they want to break it early due to whatever the situation.
Maybe
to get out of it, basically.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about the terms, because that's one of the things that, I think people don't, 5 years is sort of the standard, but there's lots of other options, right? And I guess 5 years is kind of what everyone most people choose to do, probably 83% of them.
Yeah.
But
well, that's unfortunately the 1 to 5 year. You can go with a 1 to 5 year fixed rate. Technically, you can go up to a 10-year term, but you're paying a premium to get that fixed rate for longer.
Right. You're gambling that the rates will.
Increase.
Go up, I guess, and you're insulated.
Yes. But, and the banks want you to lock into a 5-year term. Usually that 5-year fixed term is kind of the go-to rate that everybody just wants, a 5-year fixed.
Right.
The other option is looking at a variable rate, and the variable rate is also a 5-year term, where what's guaranteed for 5 years is the spread that you're going to receive off of prime rate. So your rate will vary, and honestly, it can't really go any further down because we're at rock bottom rates. But where the variable rate is versus the fixed rate, you do really pay a premium to have that 5-year fixed rate.
Okay. Right. If you feel, okay, yeah, that's right. You can lock in too if you're on variable at some point. But then if you're 2 years in on a 5-year term, then you're locking in on the 3-year, because that's what's left. Rate. Is that right?
Right. That's correct. Yeah. And normally it doesn't make sense to lock in.
No.
Statistics show, I don't have the exact stat, but yeah, statistics show that it just doesn't, you want to ride out any fluctuations in the rate. Quite often the media tie together fixed and variable rates when they're advertising or letting the public know that rates are changing, rates are going up, rates are going up. But they're based on two separate entities for what changes the interest rates.
Right. Yeah. Do you find, I mean, I find that I get clients who try to game the system and time it so that they absolutely get the very best. You know, they're buying at the bottom of the market and they want to see the rise and so on. And yet, on average, I'd say that people who buy just buying, as I was saying earlier, tend to do okay over time. And, you know, by waiting to try to game the system, they often lose. Do you find that as well?
Yes, 100%. It's just like investing too, right? You know, you try and time to buy that stock or when everyone else is buying it. That's not when you want to buy it. You want to buy it when everyone's selling it.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they're scared, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find like right now is a low inventory, high demand time. It's not a bad time to buy, but you probably won't see the same kind of price appreciations in that we've seen so far coming here out. And you also, you know, I often find that people, like I remember a time earlier on in my career where there was just so much selection and choice and prices were not really going up much and nobody was buying. And yet there were some amazing homes that were coming up. And I was like, oh, this is such a good deal for somebody. But nobody wanted to buy because they thought, oh, you know, the next one's, there's an abundance of choice and nobody's willing to make a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. That good old supply versus demand, I guess.
People are funny that way, you know, because if they'd bought a great home at that time, they would still have a great home today. But now people are buying, you know, homes from a shotgun approach based on, you know, 10 people making offers. And it's a little bit harder to find a good selection. And again, in 10 years' time, at least they will have that equity that if they hadn't bought, they would be able to move it on to something else and jump up that ladder. But yeah. Did you have any other fun stats for us, Jen? I know you, do you have any other fun stats for us?
Those are I said, so over 83% of people break their mortgage early. And then the average time for breaking your mortgage is 36 months. So just around 3 years, which is I find that very regularly too. So the key thing you know, lots of people really like to go with the 5-year fixed rate, you know, because you want to get your best 5-year guaranteed fixed rate. But what lots of people don't factor in is that, well, the chances of them breaking their mortgage is very high. Even if they don't think they will, the statistics show that the chances of them breaking their mortgage is there. And sorry, and there's a little bit of noise in the background. Sorry about that.
Can't hear
it. Can you hear it? Is it? No. Oh, good. Okay. Yes. So the chances of them breaking their mortgage is really high. So why not go with a variable rate where you're going to get a lower rate and a lower penalty? Because what's hidden with the 5-year fixed rates is the penalties are much higher to get out of them early.
If you were to go, I mean, you can't really predict. I mean, if you're going to break your mortgage, you can't say that it's 3 years is the average. So it's not, you're not going to know that on 3 years, but I'm just curious that if you'd went with a 5-year at the lower interest rate versus a 3-year at a bit of a higher interest rate, but then you didn't actually have to break it because you're 3 years in. I'm just wondering how those two costs would compare. It may not be.
It's hard to say because of the 3-year would have the greater of a 3-month interest penalty or an interest rate differential penalty.
Yeah.
Versus at worst, your penalty for getting out a variable rate mortgage is a 3-month interest penalty.
Yes.
So,
yeah, the interest rate differential is one that most people don't understand, and I always like it every time it comes up. I please explain this to people.
Yes. Well, and when you go on the bank's website, for example, RBC's website, the last I checked, now this was a few months ago, the example they're using are like 9% interest rates. So they're so old that it doesn't give a true picture of what the penalty could be.
Right.
So
yeah. In the past, I've seen penalties of $15,000 or $20,000 penalties for breaking a fixed rate mortgage.
Yeah. Easily. Yeah.
Easily. Okay. Yeah. So for folks listening,
sorry.
Well, for folks listening, Jen, do you want to tell people what the actual interest rate differential penalty means, how it applies, and how it works?
So how it works is they take what your 5-year fixed rate is. So let's just say, for example, you got a 2% 5-year fixed rate. However, the posted 5-year fixed rate is 5.25. So what they don't really tell you is you've got a discount of 3.25 off of the posted rate. So when they're determining what your penalty is, there's also factoring in this discount, which basically, I mean, just for, total estimate, you could triple what your penalty would be on the variable rate side, at least.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's a good way to look at it. Is you can't say this set in stone, but if you have a fixed rate and you break it, your penalty could be easily three times what the penalty would be if you'd gone variable rate.
Looking at the current rates now.
Yeah.
And it's always the greater of the 3-month interest penalty or the interest rate differential penalty.
Yeah. The operative word there being the greater of. So whatever's going to get the bank more money. The bank has assumed a certain amount of profit on you paying your mortgage every month. And on a variable rate, that profit is more in alignment with the current reality of what the rates are. So if you break that, they're not losing a bunch of future income because they can lend at the same rate. But if they've locked you in at a certain rate that's maybe higher than current rates, and then you want to break that, they're going to project the remaining time of your mortgage, right? And say, well, we're losing this much money.
Yeah,
so you're going to take a bigger penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's business, it's not them being greedy. It's them, you've made an agreement to pay this mortgage over this much time. And by breaking that, they are now no longer making what they'd anticipated making. And they have to go and lend that money, which is not worth as much to lend now to someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, good times. You've got a wrapping trip coming up.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. Yeah, it should be lots of fun.
I'm gonna be off to Tofino for a bit, and we were just talking before the show about how this time of year, agents and everyone else is a little bit tired from the spring market, and how last year there was really no spring market, so we had a really busy summer market, and we didn't really get to have time off. Now with the openings, COVID openings and everything, I kind of anticipate that everyone out there who's working with their realtors, I mean, I'm still working, but I'm also finding my weekends I'm being a little bit more drawn to. I mean, we all have relationships and family and so on, and we can't spend all our time working. So this is the time of year where we typically kind of try to disengage at least a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway.
Last summer there was, definitely working all summer. I mean, we couldn't go away anyways. Whereas this summer, I'm covering actually for a coworker this week, and she's going to cover for me when I'm gone. So it will be nice to have a much needed break to relax.
Excellent. Yeah. And it's so good to have coworkers that you trust that you can just leave your business with and be able to do that kind of stuff. And your clients are still in good hands.
Yes, very much so.
So I think we kind of skipped over some of the stats. So I kind of want to circle back to those, and then maybe we can wrap this up. So Danielle, could you bring those stats back up? Sure. Actually, we'll go to the first one. One more back. There we are. So we talked about new listings in the last week, 207 versus 166 that went pending. 34 price decreases. Again, that means properties are actually not selling, haven't sold, and people are actually readjusting their price, which is good to see. And 258 sold. That's just the number that closed. 13 expired. So again, these are ones that they went through the whole listing contract and didn't actually get somebody coming to the table to buy. So not even in this really low inventory marketplace, not everything is selling. You can't just put whatever price you want on a property. Comparing August 2021 to August 2020, this is the stats at the bottom space here. In the last week, we had 164 unconditional sales versus for the full month of August, we had 979 unconditional sales. For the full month of August in 2020, 1,333 new listings. So way more listings than sales. And then we had, so far this month, 243 new listings. Active listings, so that's the one we've been just so talking about, 1,311 active listings. This is incredibly low inventory. But do expect to see some bump in this in the fall. And there's always good properties, and we agents are always connected with stuff. And if you're needing some advice on money, definitely want to talk to Jen Lowe, because she can definitely help you to determine what your affordability is and set up for something to buy. Even though right now it's low inventory, don't get distracted. There's a saying, I'm going to quote it. I won't bring it up. It sounds like it's a quote from Martin Luther King. So this is just about getting into the market at any time. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like a lot of folks are trying to fly when they're not actually capable of flying. And yet it's time, and not every time is a good time to buy a home. And everybody's circumstance is different. But I do find a lot of folks hesitate when they really do need to take action. And as long as we're continuously moving forward, and Jen, you're an active person, active agent, active mortgage broker, you're always moving forward. You're always building your business. And that's 100%. What brings you success, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And that's why you deserve to go rafting and have some time off as well, because we all need that. Anyway, folks, Jen, do you have anything you want to say to wrap up, or anything you'd like to leave everybody with?
Well, feel free to reach out anytime if you have any mortgage questions, even if you just want to inquire about getting pre-approved. It's never too early to inquire. Happy to help.
I agree 300%. It's never too early to reach out and talk to your mortgage broker. There's so much that they can do to help guide you and consult with you to help get you to an understanding of what's required. And if anybody would like to reach out to me, I'm Andrew Plank with Royal LePage, and you can reach me you can text me or call me at 250-360-6106. Email info@andrewplank.com. My website, andrewplank.com, has lots of great resources as well. So, Jen, thanks so much for joining us today. We missed Jane. I don't know if she's watching this right now, but we missed you, Jane.
Yeah.
So we'll see you again next week, everyone. And Jen, you will be back. We really appreciate you. And in the background, we had Danielle helping out with some support here. So that's awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.